Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Full Spectrum TTRPG podcast. My name is Trey.
I am Rungren.
We got some stuff to talk about tonight. It's a new year.
Yeah.
Nice, Dark.
Yes.
We're going to try and wrap up the Ouroborous Cycle for SCP-001 proposals. We're not anywhere close to done with 001 proposals. We're going to try and wrap up the Ouroborous Cycle. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish it off tonight, so we might have to take next week too. We're going to have to take next week.
We shall see.
If we're going to get there, we're going to take next week. But we're going to finish at least the Ouroborous Cycle because it's the longest 001.
Okay.
And then all we'll have left are the 15 remainders. But let me remind you where we're at with the Ouroborous Cycle, because this is a long, overarching story. It starts with the Administrator and the O5 Council. Let me just real quick, it's a new year. If you don't know anything about SCP, you should probably go back and watch our original SCP episode on it. But the short version is, it is a website that is dedicated to a fan fiction, as it were, that is a combined fan fiction that everybody's wrote together, and anybody can add to, as long as it gets approved by community vote, about a foundation that, 5 months probably, yeah, about a foundation, that the SCP Foundation, that gathers anomalies and secures, contains, and protects. And whether they're protecting you or the anomalies, well, that's hard to say. But where we're at right now is in the SCP-001 proposals. There's a bunch of these because nobody could get the individual one. That wouldn't be fair for just one person to have the first one. So
Sure.
Everybody gets a crack at 001. They're all different universes, but this one is a long story. And in the first part of this story, the O5 Council, which are the people in charge of the SCP Foundation, with the Administrator, made a super gun, basically. A gun to end all guns, in the form of the 9 children, if you'll remember.
Yeah, okay.
They took these 9 children from a church in La Paz, Mexico, and they contained them into a machine, replaced all of their innards with this strange item 001, and then they were able to use them as a weapon to eliminate anything with the right code word. They used it to destroy the Kingdom of Abaddon, which were a group of sorcerers that had come in and were killing a bunch of people and taking over a bunch of stuff, and they completely wiped them off the map. But right at the end,
if there was a Kingdom of Abaddon, I would stay away from that.
For sure.
You know, I'm not saying wipe out the map. I guess that's a good idea, but that sounds very ominous to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say you don't condone taking and lobotomizing 9 children to make them into a super weapon.
No,
Okay.
I don't do that. But Abaddon's not exactly known for niceties.
Yeah.
And politeness.
And just in case anybody's forgotten, right after they wipe out the Kingdom of Abaddon, O5-1, Frederick Williams wipes out the Administrator as well. I'm sorry, not Frederick Williams. Frederick Williams was the Administrator.
He's the one that disappears too.
Yes, so he kills him as well. And then O5-1 flees and betrays the Foundation, it seems like. Takes a bunch of the researchers with him. And that's the end of that story. They seal all the 9 children away, separate from each other, in concrete. And that's where that part of the story ended.
Okay.
Part 2, if you might not remember, was about the Church of the Machine God.
Yeah.
Church of the Broken God. And how they brought the pieces together and it became this giant creature, but it was missing the real heart, and it had a heart that was actually the heart of the factory.
Yeah, Church of the Broken God.
Church of the Broken God.
Yeah, Church of the Machine God. I think it's an industrial band, but it's cool. Maybe they did the music for the church.
Maybe so.
From now on, that's how it's going to work. So for me,
I like that new canon.
Yeah.
In the Broken God reformed, but again with the wrong heart, went on a rampage.
Yes.
Cut an entire section out of California, and then ultimately was destroyed by a single member of the Chaos Insurgency. Wasn't called the Chaos Insurgency then, was called the New Insurgency.
Yeah.
Who used some kind of weapon, and nobody quite knows what that weapon is.
Yeah. It's a box.
A box, right.
Box. I know what it is.
And so that's where we had left off. The Foundation was trying to recover the parts of the Machine God, the Broken God, and I don't know why I keep calling it Machine God. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be confusing with all these million terms I've thrown at you. But the heart kept getting away because every time they tried to salvage it, the divers' heads would get crushed inside the heart. So, it had some kind of psychic powers.
Yes.
Come on, Trey. I know, I'm sorry.
See, that's the correct one, Will.
This leads us to part 3, which is called Atonement. And remember, each of these acts as if that 001 is the first one, and the way you need to read that as you go, praise the Omniscient, yeah. The way you need to read that as you go is that each new entry is now 001 because the old one's been covered up.
Okay.
So, SCP-001 is a humanoid gravitational singularity currently contained within the Area 11 Petrichal Fontaine Array. I cannot tell you how long I practiced being able to say that correctly.
Okay, so I got it figured out already.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Captain Harkness.
Okay, all right. SCP-001 is immeasurably dense only by mitigating its effect on space-time through the use of Scranton-Kemp devices are Foundation personnel able to maintain the structural integrity of the spatial stabilization array. So it is a hyper-dense, contained black hole.
Yeah.
Right? SCP-001 is not visible without specialized equipment, usually high-contrast infrared cameras, as it is constantly surrounded by a dense cloud of radioactive gas and atomized debris. They found that out when they sent people in to figure out how it was attached, and they melted.
Yeah.
Additionally, being a singularity, SCP-001 does not reflect light and is visible only by the obfuscation of light around it.
Yeah.
So, makes sense so far, right? This one seems really normal compared to the other two, right?
Right. Yeah.
SCP-001 is capable of manipulating the nature of reality through alterations in gravity that change the shape and structure of space-time.
Yeah.
As such, its anomalous capabilities cannot be dampened by anything other than the Petrichal Fontaine Array. Any alterations to space-time made by SCP-001 are irreversible.
That's okay.
SCP-001 is currently contained within the Petrichal Fontaine Special Stabilization Array located on the 6th basement level of Armed Dimensional Containment Area 11 near Kunz, Norway.
Okay. I don't know why they put that close to the seed vault, but all right, whatever.
That's a good question. The containment chamber must be kept at temperature no greater than 3.2 Kelvin.
3.2 Kelvin.
Yep.
So just above absolute zero.
A full contingent of research staff, as well as 4 applied task forces, are to be stationed at ADCA 11, which is now the shorthand we'll use for Armed Dimensional Containment Area 11.
Okay, yeah.
Currently, the assigned task forces are the Indianapolis 13 Killboys. Remember, each mobile task force gets a nickname on top of their actual name.
That sounds like some... Look, that sounds like some LA hair band from like 86.
It does.
Killboys!
It does.
Yeah.
Also,
That's
I
right.
just want to clarify, I am cutting down hours of reading for these. So if you're going, man, this is a lot of specs, Trey couldn't cut this down more, I kept in what was vital. What you need to know. I love part 3 of this, but it was about 6 hours just of reading, let alone copying back down and getting everything reassigned. So if you're even remotely interested, you should go back and read it all for yourself, because it's worth it. I'm sorry that you're disappointed in me. Next up is the Detroit 11 Blessed Rain. I guess they really like Toto.
Not football reference. Just go ahead.
The Atlanta 9 Sherman's March. And the Nevada 3 Firestarters.
Come on, Trey.
Wow.
In addition, there are a bunch of like special things that only this Petrichal Fontaine Array has for the Foundation. None of the other ones have it.
Yeah,
3
ridiculous irony in the naming of your special teams,
Always.
right?
Always. That's part of making a mobile task force, is you got to make it a reference or ironic.
Yeah.
3 Ivory Cannon class liquid fluoride thorium reactors. Which is going to be important later, I'm telling you. Trust me.
Good for the teeth.
9 Class 6 magnesium alloy suspension rings to maintain the integrity of the array. 16 Scranton Kempf harmonic dampeners. These are Scranton anchors. So these, a special thing made by the SCP Foundation, by Dr. Scranton, that we'll get to his story eventually. It's really tragic, that binds reality around them.
Right.
So very useful.
Yes, the anchors.
Kind of want those. 8 Whedon-Stanley fused energy sinks to control excessive energy output. Again, that's going to be important later. And a deep well borehole to vent and control excessive energy output, as well as 1 autonomously intelligent response vector to manage complex temporal spatial calculations. And we'll get into NetZack in a little bit, because he's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Now, this is the instructions the Foundation has given about 001.
All right.
Should a destabilization event occur, the 40 days protocols to be implemented. The acting site administrator will initiate a full evacuation of the facility, which will begin a 40-minute countdown. At 40 minutes, the evacuation order is given. At 33 minutes, after a 7-minute evacuation window, sluice gates that run into nearby river will open, flooding the lower portions of the facility. If you don't get out in those 7 minutes, you're done. At 31 minutes, charges situated around the chest chamber, will fire after 9 minutes, collapsing the test chamber and basement level into the deep well borehole. At 21 minutes, additional charges set across the entire site will fire, collapsing the entire structure into the borehole. At 6 minutes, charges set in the mountainside will fire, causing a landslide that will fill and cap the deep well borehole before being sealed by a set of locking steel plates designed to extend over the full width of the borehole. At T-minus 0 minutes, the on-site nuclear device located at the base of the borehole will fire, destroying SCP-001. Hopefully.
Nah.
In the event that the 40 days protocol does not prove sufficient to destroy the anomaly, all designated Foundation overseers, regional administrators, directors, and executives are to report to Overwatch Command Site 1 and await implementation of the Tridecum protocol, which is where they will attempt to launch people into space, and they will try to escape.
Yeah. Well, they call it a singularity, so it's like that. It's like the black hole.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little bit different. But yeah, it's a black hole, like the heart of a black hole type thing. If there is such a thing. Anyway.
We talked about one version in that 001 of how Scranton anchors were made. There's an actual SCP just on the Scranton anchors and Dr. Scranton himself. And we'll get to that one at some point. It's in the 2000s.
One day.
On June 19th, 1982. Dr.
Say,
Lamar,
what was I doing? Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
What was the date?
June 19th, 1982.
June 19th, 1980. Okay, I hadn't made it here yet. I'd been across the pond, but I don't think I was. It'd be a little bit, just a couple more months until I got. All right, so still in England at this time. Okay.
Very cool. Dr. Lamar Fontaine, you are correct, Dark. That goes to show that even the Foundation is scrabbling for a solution at this point, because they know if this thing breaks containment, what can they do?
Right, yeah.
Dr. Lamar Fontaine and his team ran a test on the Petrichow Fontaine's spatial stabilization array, created to contain anomalous entities known as reality benders, for the purpose of a particle accelerator that was being used to create singularities. They wanted to be able to contain anything that might come through if it opened a portal to hell or anything like that, right? They were trying to be careful.
Right.
It's a good thing they were.
Ooh. An everlasting gobstopper.
There you go. Dr. Calvin Desmet noticed that one of the couplings for the stabilizing rings was failing.
Oh.
And with an hour until the test, he decided he'd go ahead and just fix it now.
Might as well.
Right? However, one of the power regulators for the main generator began to fail, which meant the whole site needed to be evacuated.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Desmet could not hear the klaxons for the evacuation over the sound of the array powering up.
Oh, no.
By the time he realized what happened, it was far too late, and he was stuck in the chamber, unable to escape because all the doors had sealed, so that nobody would go in there with the evacuation order.
Gotcha.
The stabilizing ring that he came to fix failed.
Okay.
And 7 minutes later, Dr. Desmond was exposed to the full brunt of a naked and uncontained singularity.
So he is no more.
When the singularity finally collapsed, the test chamber, the research wing, and Dr. Desmond were gone.
Yeah.
Is he okay?
Couple of bruises. Couple bruises.
13 years later,
Yeah.
in March of 1995, the site has been rebuilt and has autonomous systems and the supercomputer NetZac in place to reduce human error and casualties. Theoretically, NetZac would have activated and said, hey, someone's still in there. Open that door so he can get away.
I know how to get the part. No, they wouldn't.
Right. Unfortunately, NetZac would have gone, he's gone.
Yeah, it's like somebody's in there. Tough crap.
Yep. Make sure the camera's pointed there so we can see what happens.
Yeah.
Testing continues. Because, of course, what matters if a person dies to the Foundation? We'll just keep testing. In May of 2006, which is 11 years after they've restarted testing, which makes it 24 years after Dr. Desmond and the research wing and the test chamber were gone and eaten by the deal. The word has lost me. Singularity. In May of 2006, the Foundation's able to manifest a singularity at full power and maintain it. They're able to contain it and maintain it. However, after 2 hours, the stable singularity begins to grow rapidly. NetZac has to struggle to get it back contained, but is finally able to contain it again. And dust clouds fill the singularity, and it begins to speak.
Oh, great.
So I have an audio log for you here.
Okay.
Dr. Ramsey says, can it hear me? 001 makes an unaudible noise. It's a groan of a shake. It's not actually registering as words, right?
Gotcha.
Dr. Ramsey says, wait, what was that? Can you hear that? SCP-001 says, Johannes Ramsey. Ramsey says, you know my name? 001 says, yes, Johannes Barton Ramsey. You're a doctor. The SCP Foundation. Containment. Is he being contained? He can't see. He's the array. This is the Petrica Fontaine. He knows this place. Dr. Ramsey says, have you been here before? 001 says, no. There is no I, only he, someone else, a man. I think I was him, or he is me. He was here once, and then he wasn't. Dr. Ramsey says, is that Desmond? 001 says, who? Yes, Desmond, Calvin. His name was Calvin. He is okay. Yeah, Dr. Ramsey says, there's no way for us to... 001 says, this machine, deactivate it. There is something he needs to do. He needs... Dr. Ramsey says, what are you? 001 says, a way to distinguish between two like things. He needs an overseer. Overseers, all of them. Bring them here. Dr. Ramsey says, that's against protocol. I can't do that. 001 says, no, they will come for this. He has something to offer them. Dr. Ramsey says, what? 001 says, a way out. And that ends that audio log. I have another couple audio logs for you here. Oh, go ahead.
It starts.
Oh, it's a good time to take a drink of my water.
Yeah, take a drink of your water.
I got told last time that I didn't drink enough during these.
Okay.
So I went and got a 12-pack. No.
Yeah. I thought we should have ads now. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. It doesn't seem like it, but you know.
Whatever. I didn't touch nothing.
I don't understand why Twitch gives the countdown and they don't start right immediately. Like,
yeah. So, yeah, so
all right.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll just start the next audio log.
Oh, my gosh.
And I should specify, in some 001s and in some SCPs, if you click on the audio log, it'll play it for you.
That's cool.
On the site. This is not one of them. You have to read all these. But this is an audio log from 001 to 05-1. This is not the same 05-1 from the children experiment. Remember, he left. This is the new... Of course.
See, now it says it's going to end.
Yeah. This is the new 05-1.
Okay.
And he says, I don't know if I should start this or wait until the ad break ends.
Yeah, wait 15 seconds.
I'm going to get another drink of my water.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nightbot. Wander away. Oh, no. What the crap?
I wish water tastes better. I need an SCP that makes water taste better. Or to get sponsored by that water thing.
Oh, well.
So, 05-1, again, different.
Okay.
05-1, says, to whom am I speaking? 001 says, a technicality, I'm afraid. It took time to appear like this, and longer to manifest an identity. It almost seems unnecessary, but to simplify this means of communication, you may identify me as Calvin Desmet. That seems strange, applying characteristics to something wholly apart from their genesis. 051 says, the same Calvin Desmet who was killed in this room 22 years ago? 001 says, no, not the same. Similar in many ways, but changed.
Yeah.
You understand, then, how far in breach of protocol we are? Yes, I think he would recognize that. But these are extraordinary circumstances. You mentioned a way out. Yes, in a manner of speaking. A way out of what? You contain the strange and anomalous because they threaten your world, but you're applying salve to symptoms. The root is entropy. Something inevitable, something you cannot outrun. Try as you might.
Okay.
Existence is an infinitely complex tapestry of realities, each neatly aligned above and below each other. Entropy frays the edges, and things begin to leak through. How do you know this? I have seen it. Calvin Desmet saw it. In the moment before his soul was cast into darkness. Everything you have contained, because you cannot explain it, comes from somewhere else. Somewhere it can be explained. A different reality, one that seeps into yours. Entropy exacerbates this. Over time, the borders will disappear entirely, and your world, just like all worlds, will become a pandemonium of infinite realities competing for relevance over each other. Your world will die, all worlds will die, they will feast on each other as they suffocate, and then they will die. This is not a hypothetical, it is inevitability.
So nobody of all the scientists there went, yeah, we kind of understand the second law of thermodynamics.
Right.
So what are you getting at? There's a way you can break it? Oh my gosh.
So 05-1 says, how long do we have before this occurs? 001 says decades. Each tiny tear
That's
puts
short.
pressure on the whole system. They will continue to grow until the boundaries give way, and the moment the cascade begins, the fate of creation is decided. It will be unmade, and it cannot be undone. Not for you, perhaps, but your children and grandchildren will see a sky of nightmares before they die. 051 says, well, what's your way out then, you know?
I'd go ahead and kill you now.
Right. 01 says, Calvin did the math in the moments before he entered the void. Order cannot exist forever in a universe that lingers on disorder. One line can stretch on forever, but infinitely many lines invites chaos. Points that intersect. There is only one way to ensure this world's future. Remove all other worlds.
Okay. To destroy everything else.
Yes.
I'm going to see that. Nietzsche tells us out of chaos comes order.
Yeah.
Shut up, Howard. Sorry, go ahead.
So, 051 says, you're capable of this? 001 says, yes, of course, because, you know, why else would he have brought it up? 051 says, how? 001 says, by removing the barriers for all realities all at once, save this one. Compress space-time at the points where it is most vulnerable and allow entropy to do the rest. 051 says, well, if you want to do this, why haven't you done it already? Like, if you're set on doing this, you know.
Yeah.
001 says, when I manifested here, this machine, I cannot see outside it. I cannot see you. You must deactivate the machine.
Yeah.
So the machine has trapped him.
If you just take off these handcuffs, I can show you.
Right. 051 tells him the council has to make a decision on this, you know, that he can't just do it on its own. And then he leaves.
Okay.
So then we get the last audio log that I have for you here. There's a video log later, but this is the last audio log that I have for this one. It's a little long, but it's very important for what's going to happen in a little bit.
Okay.
This is the O5 Council. We don't normally get to see these logs, but this is the O5 Council. O5-1 says the Council has been called to hear arguments for and against the use of SCP-001 for the purpose of staving off the end of the world. O5-3, if you will. O5-3 says, after investigation by several teams working independent of each other, we've determined that 001 appears to be correct about what is said regarding the nature of creation. The trend line of anomalies we are aware of and have contained has followed the accelerated progression that 001 predicted. Based on our models, we should expect an uncontainable number of new anomalies within 30 years and even more past that. 057 says, how is that possible? How is it that the universe could fall apart as quickly as this entity says it will? 051 says, according to Desmet, talking about the entity, actions taken in other realities to stave off the end of the world have significantly damaged the metaphysical construction of all universes. In many ways, we are as much to blame as all others, but infinite blame spread over infinite realities. 8 says, given a truly infinite multiverse, the idea of salvation coming to us and not other universes is statistically impossible. 053 says, yes, yet no less impossible that it would come to any of them instead of us. 11 says, how do we know this entity isn't lying to us? 3 says, if it is, then it has an incredible grasp on high-level pataphysical concepts for something that hasn't directly experienced what it claims to have experienced. 1 says more than that. I took the liberty of consulting with a number of precognitives, and if you remember... Well, we're going to get to that, Dark. If you remember, in a previous 001, 05-4 talked to a bunch of precognitions and precognitives and got in big trouble with the council. That's against the rules of the SCP Foundation. So 051, when they say here, I took the liberty of consulting with a number of precognitives, like, it's not going to be taken well. 059 says that's forbidden. And 0512 says, but wouldn't you want to know? Forbidden! 9 says, we made a decision that cannot be so easily, and 1 interrupts and says, we confirmed, as well as we could, there's a point in time that's arriving soon that obscures their vision. They can see up to it, but not past. I don't even know if they realize it yet. It was only after we drew data from dozens of tests that we realized none of them have made a prediction past 2066. 6 says, what if it's a reality bender? What if we let it out of that array and it kills us all? 1 says, if it was really a reality bender, it would have done so already. This entity isn't manipulating Humes, it's manipulating gravity, space-time. If it was affecting Humes, it could have just reached out and crushed us already. The array mitigates the effect of things that disturb space-time, which is what it currently is keeping at bay. Dr. Desmet, if he's actually in there, seems to be a type green. It's something wholly different. Or doesn't seem to be a type green. It's become something fundamental to the nature of all things. 2 says, if this creature is what it says it is, and it can do what it says it can do, that would mean the death of infinitely many lives. How can we sit in judgment over so many living things?
Yeah, you'll never meet them.
Right. 4 says, who's to say the idea of other universes isn't anomalous? Yeah. Maybe there should just be this one. Maybe that's the natural order.
I think that's one of like the little small things about the whole SCP Foundation. Just like not dealing with all the stories and everything, but one thing that just kind of underlying it is like the ridiculousness that bureaucracy can take.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree with you. They always seem a little bit stupid, and so
they're high on their own farts.
Yeah.
They don't think they can make those mistakes, right? Everybody else does, but not them. 9 says that's absurd. That we can't be the only universe. 2 interrupts and says it still means the end of so many lives. It's too many to even comprehend. A number without limit. 1 says a number without us.
Mm-hmm.
After some silence, 3 says, we pledged ourselves to maintain normalcy and protect our world. This world. The affairs of other worlds are their own. We would expect any other Overseer Council to act the same way, in the interest of their universe. This, all of this, the science, the militarism, everything, all of it's to accomplish a single unreachable goal. Keep the monsters tucked out of sight. Now we find out even that might not be enough. That the end of days is coming for us anyway. But we're given an option. If we do nothing, every universe dies screaming. If we take this action, every universe dies screaming but ours.
Yeah.
Once it's over, it's over. Everything we struggled for, everyone who's died to protect the world will be validated. Is the end of our road not worth this? Is protecting ourselves from the doomsday to come not worth this? There's silence again. And 051 says, I propose a vote. The utilization of the SCP-001 entity to stave off the end of the world. All in favor? 3, 4, 12, 1, 11, 10, 5, and 6. Say aye. 9, 2, 7, and 8. Say nay. 051 says 13 abstains. The measure passes. 9 says, even if we manage to somehow survive being turning loose an unpredictable monster, remember today as being the day we gave up on our mission. We secure and we contain. Those two come first. We've now risked everything for the faintest glimmer of hope that we somehow achieve the last, and I fear it will have damned us. Why do you trust it, Bramimond? After all we've achieved, why do you risk everything on this?
Yeah, it's bureaucracy. That's kind of synonymous.
Yep.
At a certain point. Or
051 says, I knew Calvin Desmond years ago in a different life. He wasn't recruited by the Foundation. He volunteered. He was a part of a team contacted by the insurgency to run trials on new technology they were developing at the time. But he had a young daughter that was killed by SCP-106 when it breached containment during transit in 1975, years before we had developed functional containment procedures for it. 106 is the corrosive old man that just being near him corrodes everything around him, so they have to constantly replace his cell. And, he says, after that, he sought us out, talking about Calvin Desmond. He never said much about it, but you could tell. If that's him in there, and he found a way to remove every trace of the anomalous from our universe, no matter the cost, he would do it. I know he would do it. I can hear it in his voice. Courteously. On January 11th, 2007, after further discussion with SCP-001 and additional independent research, the Overseer Council voted 8-4-1 to initiate a power down of the array and allow 001 to take the action it had described. 3 overseers, 05-1, 05-4, and 05-12, were in attendance. As a sign of good faith, an anomalous artifact, SCP-884, the shaving mirror, that allows you to, it's a fun one. We'll get there. Was selected, and SCP-001 was directed to target the reality in which the artifact had originated. 053 oversaw the artifact during the process. They had NetZac power down. 051, I'm not going to read the whole video log here, but I'll give you the snippets of it. 051 says, can you see me? 001 says, I can see everything. 051 says, can you see the mirror? He says, I see the mirror. He says, do it. SCP-001 doesn't respond right away. And then after a moment, it happens, and the mirror is gone. It evaporates. Okay. 053 says it's gone. It was sitting right here on the table, and then it's like it folded in on itself until it was gone. There's nothing left. 051 turns to 001 and says, was that you? And 001 says that narrative has ended. Which is a really interesting way to put it. Mm-hmm. 051 says, how long will it take? 001 says, moments. 051 asks if it's going to hurt the people that die in the infinite universes. 001 says it will be agony.
Oh, okay.
And then finally, after a moment, 05-1 nods. 001 begins to shimmer. Pulses of loud electrical noise and mechanical noise come rushing out from it, fills the chamber, and a thin ring of white-hot debris begins to form around 001. NetZac is going crazy, saying this is a bad idea, it's overloading everything. 05-1 asks, does it hurt you? 001 says it's excruciating. And then suddenly 05-1 jerks backwards. The space around his body begins to distort as if he's being pulled in towards his center. He reaches towards the observation window, trying to signal them to activate NetZac, and says, I don't. And then in 05-1's voice, 001 says, if that's him in there, and he found a way to remove every trace of the anomalous from our universe, no matter the cost, he would do it. Then 001 says, your children are free to live lives that do not end in horror. An end to your perpetual struggle. An end to darkness. the freedom to live in the light. All traces must be removed. Every trace of the anomalous from our universe. This world must be washed clean. It is the only way out. What the Foundation didn't realize, what the O5 Council didn't realize, is that in asking him to remove the anomalous from their world, they're anomalous.
Yeah.
So O5-1 is eaten up by himself. He crushes. O5-4 is crushed. O5-12 sobs in an unseen corner of the observation deck, and Netzach activates, realizing that something's wrong, locks the entity back down again, and as it does, the entity 001 being locked within its prison again, its voice trailing out, says, "The Foundation does not escape atonement. It is the only way out."
Yeah.
So, a notice goes out through the Foundation.
Yeah.
It says, "The Foundation is currently experiencing unexpected shifts in reality. Do not panic." This did little, however, to assay the fears of those who had watched as living anomalous entities had been crushed under the weight of something inconceivable into infinitesimally tiny points before disappearing altogether. Even worse, perhaps, were those who had watched their coworkers experience the same. Hundreds reported to site infirmaries around the globe. Dozens were dead, disappeared as if pulled by string into another place. The news that morning was undisturbed, save for a few stories that might interest someone with insight. There was an explosion at a chemical plant near Istanbul, though investigators to the scene found nothing except a scorched foundation, a few overturned semi-trucks, and a banner that read, "Dr. Wondertainment Incorporated, 1 billion safe man-hours." Dr. Wondertainment is another SCP. He makes other SCPs. Yeah. Clearly, the anomaly kept its word and was killing SCPs all across the world.
Yeah.
Billionaire Skinner Marshall had begun a massive sell-off of his holdings, creating a panic in East Asian money markets. The Secretary General of the United Nations had announced the sudden and tragic death of long-serving Undersecretary General D.C. Al Fine, who had perished when her private plane had gone down over the North Atlantic. These and other stories littered local and national news the world over, but aside from a few strange incidents and unusual disappearances, nobody seemed to notice. And then we get, for the last part of the story here, for part 3, we get, you see why I said we're probably not going to cover all of part 4 tonight. We get the uncensored version of the meeting with the O5 Council.
Okay. And
it starts with the question of, why do you trust it, Bramamond, after all we achieved? Why do you risk everything on this? O51 gives his speech about how he knew Calvin Desmond, and Calvin Desmond, his daughter was killed and everything.
Yeah.
He says, I can hear his voice, and instead of the meeting ending there, there's a rustling sound from the corner of the room. And O5-9 says, in another life, you might have been reasonable. This is unacceptable. The rustling stops, and from that dark corner, a man slumps onto the ground. His throat's been slit. He's O5-1. The rest of them panic. O5-3 turns and draws a weapon and says, who? But he's cut off when another person comes out of the shadows. It's the O5-1 they've been talking to this whole time. The O5-1 they know is dead on the ground next to them. The O5-1 they've been talking to this whole time is shaking, and his face is streaked with tears. One of his arms has been crushed. And he says, I'm sorry. It said that if I came here and told you everything that I've told you, that it would spare my life. O5-3 shoots him. Does not waste any more time. Shoots him. Some undisclosed amount of time later, O5-3 is standing before the shattered glass of an observation deck. Below him is a machine, Netzach, humming as it spins around a nebulous cloud of darkness. Netzach is desperately trying to contain this entity. Behind him is a smear of blood where O5-1 had been, moments before he was no longer existing, right?
Okay.
O5-3 says, Netzach, can you hear me? Netzach says, yes. 053 says, you aren't fitted with any sort of personality module, are you? NetZach says, I am not. 053 sighs, and he's the only one left in the facility now. Everyone else has been evacuated. The rest of the overseers had fled. Some of them died in planes. Some of them died in holes. They're all pretty much gone, except for 053 here. And he says that company would have been nice. He says, how long can you maintain containment of 001? NetZach says, given current conditions, I will be able to maintain stability of the Petrocal-Fontaine array for 119 days, 6 hours, and 47 minutes. Afterwards, the array will no longer have the structural integrity necessary to contain 001. 053 says, well, given what you know, what do you think the odds are that the backup containment protocols will be able to neutralize it? NetZach says, given information gathered during a containment of 001, it is a certainty that 001 will be undeterred by current failsafes. Full of good news today, NetZach. You need to give me something here. I am unable to provide... That is a lot of damage. I am unable to provide a sufficiently psychological useful response. So, yeah, I know. But you can solve problems, right? You're a problem-solving robot. What would you do in my shoes? NetZach pauses. The lights dim. And then after a moment, the droning noise that he's been hearing gets louder as things are already starting to fail. NetZach says all attempts to contain 001 by way of brute force or standard means of containment, short of maintaining the Petrocal-Fontaine array, will fail. 001 has, by methods currently unknown to this system, fused itself with the fundamental essence of the makeup of reality. It cannot be harmed or interfered with physically, as any such force that would oppose it requires the same forces to exist that 001 is now joined to. 001 will breach containment the moment the Fontaine array fails. However, 001 does appear to be sentient and sapient, likely formed out of the death of Dr. Calvin Desmet. While sapient, sentient creatures are often unpredictable and generally unwilling to compromise, diplomacy has historically been an effective means at bridging gaps between creatures with dissimilar goals and motivations. 053 says, you want me to talk to it?
Yeah,
that's your solution?
That'd be a start.
053 says, all right, you're worth all the money we spent on you. Gets his coat. He says, how about this? You watch Dr. Desmet. I'm going to go get a drink. When I come back down, I'll talk to the dark body. It almost certainly means both of our deaths. But it's only a matter of time anyway. And he says, I've been thinking about that night in the council chambers, but the one I put a bullet in. Sort of a turn of fortune for them, wasn't it? When I joined the Foundation, someone told me to remain an atheist as long as I can, because I'll see so many gods and they'll all be selling something, but none of them will be the real deal. They said I'll know the one true God when I see it, and to give that God everything it wants, because that's the only thing that matters. That night I saw God. That night God wanted me to shoot 059, and by the sound of it, tonight God wants to talk to me. So hold down the fort, and I'll be back shortly to speak to him. Sound all right to you? NetZach says I am unable to provide a sufficiently psychological useful response. 05 says that's what I thought. So that speech that 05 gave, or 053 gave, that convinced everybody, was because the entity was already talking to him. They were being played the whole time.
The whole time.
That's why none of it made sense, that they weren't thinking about stuff.
Yes.
It was already influencing them.
Well.
And so, we'll start part 4 tonight, but we're not going to be able to finish part 4 tonight.
Okay.
I don't like part 3 as much as I like part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But there is some cool stuff in there. I think the reveal of, like, hey, this was not the actual minutes for this meeting.
Right.
We kept out the part where a bunch of people got shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they are still the Foundation overseers. Now, going into part 4, remember, this is the final part 4. Remember that when the 05 Council is killed, new people are recruited for it. That's why we've had multiple 051s and everything like that. So the only one that survived that situation was 053. But since we know the Foundation is in this story, that means they've recruited more, right? So just keep that in mind. This is part 4, the way it ends.
Okay.
It starts with a little story here.
Okay.
The first man stood alone on the barren field, and in the distance he saw the locked gate beyond, which his greatest shame was kept. He turned to the snake, who writhed on its belly like a worm, and cursed it for its treachery. "You tricked me," the man said. "You led my hand astray, and now we are damned for it." The snake sighed. "I gave you knowledge," it said, "and with that knowledge you made the choice you made. I could not make it for you." The man cried out, "All the same, trusting you was my greatest mistake." "No," the snake said, "your greatest mistake was believing you had a choice at all." So that ties back into the Foundation and the fact that they always seem to think they're making the right choice, but they're only ever making things worse.
Yes.
And the phrase, "Should intermittent vengeance arm again his red right hand to plague us?" which might sound familiar to some of you. It's from Macbeth. So this whole section starts with a foreword by the Chaos Insurgency.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you don't remember, we mentioned a little bit earlier, the Chaos Insurgency is the only
They have
reason,
a box.
They have a box.
Yes.
They're the only reason why the Broken God is dead.
Yeah, because they got a box.
They stopped it when the Foundation couldn't, and they have been around and doing stuff this whole time. And this is the first time in a 001 proposal that's more elaborate than just, hey, this is the U.S. military's or the U.S. government's opinion on the Foundation.
Yeah.
This is the first time we get a story told from one of those groups.
That's cool. Okay.
So this is a story about the Chaos Insurgency.
All right.
It says, forward, we, the Delta Command, do hereby set in motion the principles of this document, the summa modus operandi of the Chaos Insurgency. We hold the following to be inescapable truths. The Foundation overseers have altered the fabric of reality for the benefit of their own wicked desires. These alterations are the source of all supernatural activity in our universe. These grievances we hold against them. And it goes in a big list. I'm going to read it for you because it's important for the whole thing, but this part is called the way it ends. Most fans call it the O5 Council has to die.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. Against the 13th Overseer has blasphemed the natural order in his foul contract to stray the hand of death, and has usurped the fragile balance of life and given an impenetrable shield to the horrid adulterers of the Foundation. So that's going to be the first one we talk about, but we're going to go ahead and go down the list for these. And next week, when we finish these, because we're not finished them tonight, I'm going to tell you right now.
Do they die?
We'll come back. You'll have to wait and see. We'll come back and cover the ones. We'll cover this list again, because it's a fun little list.
Okay.
The 12th Overseer has stolen the wealth of the world to benefit the Foundation's insidious designs, and has taken the fruits of many millions for the purpose of turning those laborers against the laborers.
Okay, so we've had the Rothschilds, George Soros. Keep going.
The 11th Overseer has spun a circle of lies around the people of this world to protect the Foundation's interest, and has cast a dark eye onto the void to gaslight and pervert true human understanding.
That's the mainstream media. Keep going.
Yep. The 10th Overseer has kept a dubious record of the Foundation's malfeasances and altered history to suit them, and has mocked truth and reason for the sake of maintaining the Foundation's cruel legacy.
Oh. That's the people who say Epstein killed himself. Keep going.
Right.
Keep going.
The 9th Overseer, I'm really enjoying your
I got this figured out now. We're going through it.
The 9th Overseer has betrayed the trust of their fellow man and sworn allegiance to the cancerous council, and has time and time again turned away from opportunities to strike them down to prolong their greed-ridden intentions.
That's Biden in Congress. Keep going.
The 8th Overseer has committed wicked acts against the ignorant public with their careless use of nuclear weapons, and was one of the first to breathe life into an organization that should have been butchered in the crib.
Oh, that's Kim Jong-un.
You're not wrong. The 7th Overseer has manipulated innocent populaces to create chaos and destruction for the Foundation's benefit, and has shown nothing but contempt and malfeasance against the innocent and unwitting.
Trump. Let's go.
Sure. The 6th Overseer has surreptitiously used the might of the American military machine to crush the Foundation's enemies, and wrought a tale of never-ending violence and bloodshed that has forever stained this world.
Oh, that was Bush to Obama. Let's go.
The 5th Overseer has warped the very boundaries between space and time to extend the Foundation's cruel reach, and has taken dark and horrible secrets from those far-off places to use them to fuel the Foundation's death machine. This one's a tough one.
No, there's a few. There's a few. but I'm going to go with BlackRock. Keep going.
Okay. The fourth overseer has lulled the nations of the world into believing that the Foundation means them no harm while working alongside the same treacherous intentions that would see this planet laid to waste.
Oh, okay. That's Putin and Mao.
Sure.
Putin and Oh, sorry, what? Not Mao. He's dead.
Yeah.
He's been dead a long time.
Surprised you were bringing him up, but sure.
Gigi.
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Okay, Winnie the
I know what
Pooh.
you're talking about.
Thank you.
The third overseer has used mankind's own technologies against them to act as the all-seeing watcher of the overseers, spinning a web of eyes that has eroded every last shred of human privacy and decency.
Yeah, that's Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Keep going.
The second overseer is complicit.
Oh, that's us. I'm sorry.
All the presidents.
That's our ignorant ass in the general public. So yeah, just
complicit.
Yeah.
The first overseer has established a council of monsters and demons that answer at his beck and call, all so that he may sit on his foul throne atop the putrid wound of the Foundation and lap like a dog from its seeping pustulate orifice.
Oh, that's like Logan Paul.
Yeah, I really like the way that was worded. That was really good.
Oh, okay.
Could
be, maybe.
Then they say the Overseer's cancerous, anomalous influence on the world is a wound on the fabric of the universe. A wound that festers cannot heal until the irritant is removed. The 13 Foundation Overseers are the irritant in the wound on our reality. The 13 Foundation Overseers must be removed. By order of the Engineer and of those who step down, we stand in defiance of this aberration. We stand in opposition to this blasphemy against nature. We stand insurgent against this chaos. Our path is clear, our vision unclouded. We must clean out the wound. We must let our universe heal. We must destroy the 13 Foundation Overseers.
Okay, I'm all for that. But that little speech to do that is like that actually falls in line with I'm just gonna say it's a nice way to put it. Genocidal maniacs.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yes.
That's the argumentation used to allow for, Well, Dark.
Yeah. Well, see, that's my philosophy. Love you. I love a person. A person can be great. People suck.
Yep. So to speak to Dark's argument here.
Yes.
This has been a command for the Chaos Insurgency since the beginning of the Chaos Insurgency, when it was called the Global Insurgency, the new Insurgency.
Okay.
Nobody's been able to do it, obviously. Because as said, they've been able to finagle some stuff where an Overseer dies.
Yeah. But
they either get replaced or some anomalous way come back. And so everything's been kind of just keeping on, up until Calvin Lucian, through luck, he claims, finds a journal from the early days of the Chaos Insurgency, which speaks of an agent that kept detailed notes on the O5 Council. Following it, Calvin Lucian, who's just an agent, right, puts together a plan that will allow him to break O513's contract with death, allowing the rest of them to die. The Chaos Insurgency puts its weight behind him, and Calvin puts together a team. So this story is going to follow Calvin as the head agent over the team.
Okay.
Olivia, the anartist. Now, an anartist is an anarchist, but uses magic art, which is an anomalous thing made by Dr. Wondertainment.
Okay, so she's on a team?
Yeah.
How the heck is she an anarchist?
Because she's not an anarchist anymore.
Yeah.
She used to be. She joined the Chaos Insurgency.
Okay.
Adam the Hacker. They just call him the Hacker. I wish he had a cooler, anomalous name. But there's some cool stuff about Adam. I'll give you a brief rundown of who these people are after I give you the whole team. Okay. And the last member of the team is Anthony the Veteran. And nobody knows how old Anthony is. He's just been with the Insurgency
a while now.
For as long as anybody can remember. Calvin Lucian is a very good agent who is very unlucky. He'll go to bomb a caravan that's for the Foundation to try and interrupt them from using an SCP somewhere. Mm-hmm. And turns out the caravan was unmanned and was being sent to be a distraction. They do, right? And the SCP is now free. because he let them out on accident. You know, Olivia is an artist. She was caught by the Foundation, and in trying to escape, would have been caught for good, but Calvin found her and recruited her into the insurgency.
Okay.
The Foundation wants her because everybody else paints with the magic paint,
Yeah.
and then it becomes anomalous. She's already anomalous. When she paints with the paint, it does what she wants it to do, instead of just doing whatever it would.
Okay.
And then Adam is a hacker that used to be a D class.
Well,
He used to be a D class doing like grunt work for the Foundation.
Hurry up, run.
And he was a D class. He was a D class that survived being a D class
all right.
long enough to get found. So he's not.
Yeah.
He's the hacker, but he's not weak, right?
Right.
That's a crazy thing to survive being the most expendable person on the team. They're not because you want to be. These four are put together as a kill squad, right? That's what they call themselves. And Delta Team, which is the leaders of the current Chaos Insurgency, offer to give Calvin more men. And Calvin says, no, I need a small team that can get in and get out. I need a team that won't be easily tracked, and I need the best of the best.
Delta Force.
Pretty much. And so they set out first to go after 0513. Now, this is why I mentioned to you, you'd see when we got into this, why we're not going to be able to do all this today.
Yeah.
Each of these has their own long entry
Okay.
that I've reshaped. But I've got a blurb on them.
Okay.
I've got the story of what happens, and then there's a journal entry. I chose not to write the journal entries in here, so we're not going to go over those. Those are the journal entries of the Chaos Insurgency guy that had the journal originally and wrote about them. I might reference one or two things that's mentioned in there, but they're kind of long on their own. They're really good, and I also don't want you to only come here to read the story. I want you to go back and read it for yourself.
Okay.
So, I left those out. But if you're only interested in the journals, you can go to the website and just go to the journal sections and read those. But 0513 is the other overseer. He was formerly Dr. Felix Carter, which, if that name sounds familiar, remember who was in charge of the situation that Dr. Desmet got caught in?
Yeah.
That's Dr. Felix Carter.
Okay.
Date of birth unknown, Caucasian male, was once a doctor for a research consortium named the International Academy of Existential Sciences. Early conspirator of 051, and the individual called the Administrator. Supposedly was a bargaining chip used in a deal made with Death itself to allow Death a seat on the council, while it grossly prolonged the lives of the overseers. So Faith was joking about it earlier, but when it says that 13 abstains cordially, it's 13 abstains because that's Death on the council.
Yeah.
Death doesn't have an opinion on whether you should or should not kill everybody. Death just wants to know if you're killing people.
Yeah.
So Death got his own seat on the council.
How many of these people I got to go pick up? That's all I need to know.
Right.
Where are they at?
Also, it's implied on what happened there, it's implied that no other universes were destroyed. That the sphere, the singularity, was just tricking them to kill everybody. It's never outright said, but it's implied that at no point were there actually infinite universes being wrecked. So...
Okay.
we'll see. We're not done with the story yet. But, give Death a seat on the council. Presumed extremely dangerous. Location is only speculated and considered impossible to reach. Now again, this is where the journal comes in. The journal tells you where 0513 is. And the fact that this Chaos Insurgency agent had this information means they were good in the Foundation.
Yeah, they did their homework.
Right. They got deep in there.
Gotcha.
They find 0513, following the journal, in a large anti-meme tower in the South Atlantic that you can't...
You can't get memes in there?
Can't get memes in there.
That sucks.
It's a tough time. But it also has like an anti-memetic where if you try to... like if you're
you said so. You can't get memes in there.
Yeah. If you're looking at it and you try to write it down on the map where it is, you can't.
Gotcha.
If you walk away from it or stop looking at it, you forget it's there.
Right.
So it's obviously very hard to find. However, they find it. And again, I'm cutting out so much of these.
Yeah.
To get it cut down. But They get to there. They have to crash their ship to be able to get up to the rocks. So they have to call in another ship.
Okay.
And they're hoping the new ship gets to them before the Foundation finds out they're there.
Yeah.
Because that would be a problem. So they decide that the right course of action here is for just Calvin to go in, even though it could be very dangerous, because it's going to be more important to have a way back out and trying to secure the ship, make sure they can get found. Because remember, they can't tell you their coordinates.
Yeah.
And they have Adam trying to use GPS to pinpoint it with his laptop because he's the hacker.
Right.
You know, while Olivia tries to keep a handle to make sure if the Foundation does find them, that they're okay. And Anthony's just there to shoot people. That's his job.
Right.
And to drive stuff. He's really good at driving stuff.
Driving and shooting. You get paid well for that. Huh?
Yeah. So Calvin enters the tower.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and, you know, again, there's some ways to think around it that when the story was written in 2007 might not have been quite as easy, but a beacon or a, you know,
Well, that's just,
flare gun.
unless it sets itself outside of the space-time continuum, so this is just a point where you get in. So it's kind of using Heisenberg's uncertainty. Well, no. That wouldn't... I was trying to think of some way to do it. There's like the split line. Anyway, so when you're looking at it and observing it, it is there.
Right.
When you do not observe it, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's
So it'd be
quantum in that way.
Yeah, so it would be arguing, does the beacon have a sense? I mean, it knows where it is, but
Right.
would it... Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, to clarify, it was a ship they were on, not a plane, Dark. I'm sorry if I said plane.
Yeah, that should be. Yeah. Either way, it should be.
Yeah.
Burn something.
So Calvin enters the tower, and he has to go down a good ways. And he has to keep looking down on his arm where he's written down what he's here to do, because otherwise he would forget inside the
Right,
tower.
right.
And so he finally makes it down to the bottom floor of this tower. And at the bottom floor, there is a corpse in a chair, a regular folding chair. And the corpse is just sitting there. And the corpse says, "A visitor." Corpse mouth doesn't move. But it seems like it almost sounds like a creak going through a tomb, right? Mm-hmm. The corpse then says, "How peculiar. I don't often receive guests." Calvin hesitates. I love Calvin in this story because for all the like, hey, this guy's got a plan, he's also just a dude and he's really freaked out.
Yeah, yeah.
And he says, "You're 0513, right?" The corpse laughs and says, "In a sense, this body was once that of Dr. Felix Carter, the meddler. He was the 13th. I reside here in his place." Calvin says, "Okay, good. You'll commune with me. Come to renegotiate your contract." Something flashes through his mind. An endless field of corpses, fire and blood, a parade of red horrors, a silent figure watching from above, but it all goes by so fast he can't really parse it. And the corpse is smiling at him when he finally is able to refocus on it. And it says, "You have no authority here, Calvin Lucien." Calvin steps back and it says, "Yes, I know your name. Yours is not one of the 13 pinned on the contract. Your hand cannot break it." Calvin steals his nerves. He says, "You're right, it's not. But humor me, if you would. Your contract, what are its terms? What were you promised?" It growls and says, "Fine. No harm in humoring the soon-to-be dead. The contract offered an escape for the 13 from the hand of fate. Life everlasting. They already had the Fountain of Youth. Why do they need you?" The fountain had run dry. Even then, it could not save them from me, only keep me at arm's length. When they began to die, the first came to bargain. I offered to stay my hand, in exchange for a seat at the table. It was a simple negotiation. Calvin moves behind the corpse, whose eyes, even despite the fact that it has no eyes, are still able to track him. The eyes are just black, but he can tell it's still looking at him, you know. He says, "As part of the contract, they gave you this man, gave you his life. No, his life was insured as part of the contract, and they gave me his body. He lingers on the edge of death eternally, his mind given to the sublime ecstasy of near death. Calvin says, he's not dead? The corpse says, no. Calvin says, good, drink up. Calvin unstoppers a vial and pours it down the throat of the corpse. And life returns to Dr. Felix Carter as death is forced out of him. Dark silver smoke exiting his eyes, nose, and mouth. And then Calvin shot him. Calvin felt the presence again. When he turned, he found a silver woman draped in darkness standing alongside him. She peers into the abyss, and Calvin kicks the chair holding the body of Dr. Felix Carter come back to life, and gasping into the abyss. She says, the living body of the 13th. The contract is invalid. I'm released from my obligation. He says, should fatal peril come to them, you'll no longer stay your hand against the other 12? Death says, I will not. They are free to die. Calvin says, good. That's enough. He starts to go back towards the stairs and stops and says, why didn't you stop me? You have the authority and power to do so. Why'd you stand by and do nothing? Death doesn't say anything for a while. She continues looking down in the pit. Without turning back to him, she says, something festers at the heart of the council. Something that will not die. I thought that perhaps if I had a seat at the table, I could find it, make it die. But I couldn't. There are things in this world beyond even my reach, Calvin Lucian. She turns to look at him for a moment, and he's filled with this overwhelming sense of melancholy.
Yeah.
Then she turns back to the pit, and she says, perhaps you'll fare better. Perhaps not. Calvin leaves. They get their ship. They leave the tower behind, forgetting where it was immediately, and the first member of the O5 Council has died. We'll take another drink.
Okay.
So that should give you the idea of what we're in for with the rest of there's 12 more of these.
Yeah.
I will say, well, he won't get replaced immediately because they can die now. The whole reason why they were able to replace them before is because if they died anomalously, they could come back. They could be given a new body. Right? And the old mind would take over.
Yes.
They can't do that anymore.
Now they can die.
Yeah, now they can actually die. Not just, hey, that body's dead. Hey, that person got crushed into nothing, but their soul still lingers. Now the death will not save their souls anymore. They will be taken with every other soul. They were given a stay of execution, basically.
Yeah.
Now they can actually die.
Yeah. Now they're going to leave when they die.
Right.
I really want to see the SCP Scooby-Doo crossover.
It'd be pretty great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Remember Calvin Lucian standing there with Fred?
Yeah.
Fred's like, whoa, you just shot that guy.
We need to make a trap. Bloom!
So, obviously, this has ramifications for the entire rest of the Foundation, as all of the overseers realize suddenly something has changed within them.
Yes.
And they start trying to figure out what, and then they find out the tower's been accessed, and they realize, oh, we can die now.
Yes.
So the team heads for 0512, the accountant. I got a blurb for you here. Previous name unknown. African male, appears to be in his 40s. Well-known figure in financial markets, though rarely spoken of publicly, if ever. Dresses in expensive, tailored clothing with similarly expensive jewelry. Wears dark glasses. Apparent mathematical genius, supposedly capable of running the calculations for probability itself in his mind. Likely anomalous. Maintains Foundation financial accounts. Manipulates trade markets in order to accrue wealth for the Foundation, and by extension himself. Supposedly has members of his own staff seated at high-level positions on financial boards for all major world governments. So, the team has some trouble here. They figure out that he's in Tokyo, based on following trends and watching stocks and seeing where something got bought by a handful of shareholders and then suddenly skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Well, clearly he's playing the market.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they tracked it down to he's going to be in Tokyo on this day during the big market day in Tokyo. But no matter how hard they try to figure it out, they can't figure out how to plan around his seemingly precognitive abilities. Well, I'm not saying that somebody might try that, but, we'll see.
Right.
The accountant is a man of precision. He sleeps for exactly 7 hours. When he wakes, it's on the hour. Each footfall is calculated. Each step is predetermined. He makes no mistakes, takes no chances, and accounts for every significant possibility. Adam says the numbers can't be wrong. They're just data. He can't know everything for sure. He just makes predictions, and those predictions have varying degrees of certainty. That sounds like a new time. That's the hiccup here. He can know there's a 75% chance that today someone will attack him. He can know there's a 30% chance it'll be 5 people, a 25% chance it'll be 4 people, a 20% chance it'll be 3 people, and so on.
Yeah, I'm just kind of in shock here that you say he's in Japan and the first thing Dark goes to is nuke time. What is happening? God.
Wow, Dark.
All y'all are terrible. Gosh.
So, knowing now that the accountant tracks every step,
Yes.
that's why when the accountant first noticed a young man approaching him from across the street, he takes immediate action. The man's in his 20s, short hair, open coat, Slavic.
Hey.
Oof.
Oh.
Oof.
Okay.
Somebody play the oof effect. Based on the color of the man's shoes, the accountant determines he's here to kill him. And based on the current market price of peaches, the accountant determines he's not alone. Because again, he's watching everything. It's not just one probability. He's watching all probabilities.
Yeah.
He takes a step to the left. A crowd of businessmen has just emerged from a nearby diner. There's at least 15 people between him and the assassin now. One of the 15 was Japanese, in his mid-50s. He walked with a slight limp and was going bald. This meant the second assassin was in the third-story window of the small wine shop across the street. So that's the level they're dealing with this guy.
That was... I know it's a little bit off subject and I let it go through, but the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
That was kind of her, like her original power.
Yeah.
Was like the probability manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Like in one comic book, she beats Ultron.
Yeah.
Right. She single-handedly defeats Ultron because every time Ultron gets hurt, or if a circuit goes, a nanomachine comes and fixes it. Right. The probability of every one of his circuits going out at the same time was astronomical. But that's how she beat him.
Yeah.
By messing with probability to cause that to happen.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool power.
Yeah, yeah. It would be. I understand why it's such a. It would be such a hard guy to catch.
Yeah. So, having realized that the second assassin is in the third-story window of the wine shop across the street, the accountant adjusts his watch, reflecting sunlight off its surface and into the window. The sniper was briefly blinded, and now that neither assassin could see him, he moved to enter a nearby office building. Just, again, without missing a beat, right?
Yeah.
The team tries to outwit him. No matter what they try, he always figures it out. There is a short exchange of words and bullets where Olivia and Adam almost think they have him cornered, and the accountant just says, "You're going to miss your next 3 shots. Just give up." And Adam goes to go like, "Oh yeah, you so sure about that?" And Olivia pulls him back down right as a bullet hits where his head would have been if he continued trying to fire that shot. Because the accountant had already planned for that and already had somebody set up to be,
Yeah.
He's almost untouchable. However, after this short exchange of words and bullets, the accountant gets away and to his train, only for Calvin Lucian to enter his train car. The accountant is absolutely stunned and says, "How?" And Calvin Lucian says, "There were only 2 trains that left your station, so I just flipped a coin to see which one it would be."
Yeah, I was thinking to say, you would have to send somebody completely stupid, like after him, just give him pictures like he's over there somewhere, or something like that. Yeah. There's
a really fun little nod here, too, from Calvin, where he says that normally luck's against me.
Right, yeah.
And it just, the accountant asks him, like, what would you have done if I wasn't on this train? he said, we would have had to find another time to hunt you down.
Yeah.
So you really didn't plan to meet me here?
No,
He
no,
said, no.
no.
And he said, that's how I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
It's for the chorus. Calvin sits down across from him, pulls out his pistol, and asks him, hey, where are the rest of the overseers? If you tell me where they are, I'll make it quick. The accountant, I'm going to read this verbatim for you. The accountant sat back in his chair, loosened his tie. He said, I'm not going to do that. You know, a funny trick to put me in a compromising position, and that's clever. But now that we're here, I know exactly how this plays out. Why would I compromise my associates when you're just going to kill me either way? Calvin says that's the difference between being shot and being dragged behind the train. Accountant swallows and says that's barbaric, and either way, it's not likely. We're not too far from our destination, and there's too many people around. The way I die is by the end of your gun. Calvin says, does that bother you? Calvin says, of course it does. I haven't thought about the idea of dying in such a long time, and to now be sitting here looking at it, it's nothing short of horrifying. But I'm not going to beg for mercy from a terrorist. Do you truly understand what you're doing? Calvin doesn't answer. The overseer sighs and says, go ahead. You both know what you're going to do next. Calvin shoots it.
Yes.
So that's 2 down.
2 down, yes.
I figure we'll cover one more tonight.
Okay.
And then we'll probably call it for this week. Next week, we'll try and get the last 10.
All right, we need, I think, New Year. We may get back to, I kind of want to do SCPs for a while so we can get through these. So I may be forcing you to do some more of these.
Hey, I'm not against that. I want to finish out the 001 so we can start getting into the rest.
Right.
I love doing that.
Okay.
So this is 0511, The Liar.
Liar!
So date of birth, unknown.
Okay.
Unknown descent, unknown origin, unknown gender. Incredibly difficult to identify. Single identifying mark is a small scar on the left temple, usually hidden by hair. Generally appears as a wealthy woman in lavish outfits. Primary disinformation hit entity within the Foundation. Oversees teams that maintain cover stories, amnestic supply, supposed connection with the gargantuan aquatic entity in the Bay of Bengal. We're going to get to that one at some point too. I'm telling you, there's so many cool SCPs. I promise you, if you're like, I just want to hear about the weird ones. We do the 001s as a base so we can build up to everything else.
Okay.
Possible reality bending properties, extremely dangerous. So, Olivia finds herself in a time and a place she doesn't quite recognize. Most details are right, but some are a little bit wrong. She's standing in France, in Paris, and next to her is Anthony, and there's a huge art gala, and all of the art is her stuff. Which, again, is weird when she got in major trouble with the Foundation for drawing anything before.
Yeah.
She used magic paint. Anthony's not smoking, but he has his lighter. And when she asked him, where are Calvin and Adam? We're supposed to be going after the liar. Anthony's reply is, don't you remember? We've already taken care of that. Tonight's on you, kiddo. She doesn't like all this, and so she pulls out her knife and stabs him in the heart. And she wakes up.
Okay.
And when she wakes up, she's with Adam. And Adam is trying to locate the liar. Trying to figure out where the liar's at. And Adam always calls his computer Alexei. But here, when she's talking to him, he says Alexander. So she pulls out her knife, she stabs him in the heart, and she wakes up.
Okay.
This time she's with Calvin. And she is slept on his couch in his apartment. And she wakes up, and Calvin has made her coffee, and nothing seems wrong. Everything seems normal. She tells him about her 2 experiences, and he tells her it's going to be okay. We're going to take the liar down soon. We just need a little bit more time to figure out where he's at. We'll get him. She says, okay, no problem. And then Calvin says, do you still have your copy of the journal? She reaches over to a patch on her arm that has a bandage on it. Says, yeah, it's still here. And then realizes, why would Calvin ask me about that?
Yeah.
She stands up. She
Stabs
stabs him in the heart.
Okay.
She wakes up.
Okay. Waking nightmares. This was inflicted upon somebody by Dream in the Sandman movies.
Yeah.
As a punishment for them to suffer the last few years, because they were old and going to die anyway, but they were their last few years of suffering and they were constantly in waking nightmares. So each time they thought they'd wake up, they'd have the relief for a second, and then it would nightmare again. Yes.
Yeah.
Add over. Okay.
I'm sure you could guess, but she stabbed him in the heart and woke up.
Yeah.
It's a pretty like crazy punishment to give somebody, right? Like that moment of okay, it's 20 seconds. I'm sorry.
Yes, but yes, it is for sure. We'll go through that.
Horrifying in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. She wakes up. Thanks, Nightbot. You're a little late.
Flat time. Flat time.
How much you been drinking, Nightbot? This time she's in a hospital with the liar. The liar has read her copy of the journal, found it in her arm, right, where she showed it to be.
Yeah.
Under the bandage, embedded under her arm. He got the USB out, read it all, and read the entry on the liar. And when she starts trying to talk to the liar is sitting there quiet and begins to cry and says, "How did the journal know? How could I forget?" The liar's real name is Sam Beale, one of the founding members of the Chaos Insurgency.
Yeah.
Who explains that the Foundation captured the liar because the liar's anomalous ability was the ability to generate amnestics. And so the Foundation took the liar, Sam Beale, and amnesticized him with his own amnestics until he couldn't remember who he was anymore and thought he worked for them. The liar, I have a little blurb here for you. The liar began unbinding Olivia's limbs. "I cleared a path to the front entrance. It'll be open for another 10 minutes. Once you're out, you'll find a gray van in the parking lot. The doors are unlocked. The keys are in the glove compartment. You'll find instructions, a map, and a flash drive." "Flash drive?" Olivia asked, sitting up. "Says it contains crucial data, including the location of your next target, the archivist. Out of all of us, she may be the furthest gone. Tell your friends to be careful." Olivia sits up from the hospital bed and says, "What about you?" The liar says, "What about me? I'm not faultless in this. I may have forgotten my purpose, but it was still me in there making decisions, doing the things I did. There's nothing left for me out there. If the Foundation doesn't kill me immediately, I'll spend the rest of my life running from them because of what I know. And I'm not about to run from the truth. The truth has set me free." The liar sits back into their chair, pistol on their lap. Says, move fast. Your window's closing." Olivia touches the liar's hand. The liar doesn't look up. Olivia leaves the room, and as she leaves, she stops, looks back one more time, and thinks for just a moment she can recognize that face, that maybe all those years ago, this was someone that she met.
Yeah.
And then she leaves, and as she gets about halfway down the hallway, she hears the single lonely shot.
Yeah, but he's a liar. Keep going.
Yep. We might have time to do the archivist, too. I don't know. What do you think? You want to do one more, or you want to call it?
All right, I think and they stop there. You got set up.
The
We know they've got the journal.
Yeah.
To go to it. And then she wakes up.
Yeah, right?
And she's in McDonald's sitting across from her father. And they're having burgers.
But the burgers are upside down.
And he reaches over and dips his french fry in ketchup. And she remembers he hates ketchup. So she stands up, stabs him in the heart. And she wakes up on the couch with her white dog. Then she remembers her dog is brown. She stands up, stabs the dog in the heart, and wakes up.
I love how quick she is to go to it, too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's not smoking, but he has his lighter.
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, that one's he's based off the Smoking Man from the X-Files,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. He can't not smoke.
Yeah, Anthony always smokes.
Yeah.
No, I really like this one. I think there are a couple times where the author pushes it a little too far in the way that the group survives, the way the group can pull it off, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But other than that, I think, I mentioned it last time I talked about SCPs, that the Ouroborous Cycle has become my favorite.
Yeah.
I think something about getting a story in the SCP world about taking down the Foundation.
Yeah.
Foundation does a lot of great stuff. They also do a lot of terrible stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of cathartic to have this story that's like, yeah, no, we're stopping them.
Yeah.
You know, we're taking them down. And then it's done up almost like a heist movie, or they got to get the information. And
just because they're a protagonist doesn't mean they're the good guy.
that's right.
A different story.
So next week, we'll try to finish these out. We might have to take another week, but hopefully not. Hopefully we can finish the Ouroborous Cycle next week.
All right.
We still have 15001s after that.
And then maybe we can get to 2 after we do the 15001s.
Great.
And then 3.
2. Because
once we get to 2, I think it's going to start going up.
It cascades so quick.
Yeah.
2 is like 4 paragraphs and that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I really like this one. I hope, Chad, I hope you like it. I hope those watching later on YouTube and Twitch like it. I hope you like it.
Yeah.
There's good stuff in here. And I'm really excited for when we get to 056. I'm not going to... I don't know if I should tell you the title or not. Because each of them has a title. But 056 is really good.
All right. I'm going to make him do SCPs for a little while.
Yeah, we made Rungan read mythology for quite a few weeks in a row.
So, think about it, Dark. Tell you what mythology I should do, and I'll start getting it together. For a little bit, we're going to be doing SCPs, so I want to get through this, and get through this first one. I want to start going up the numbers and start getting some of those weird ones myself.
Yeah. Tomorrow, we'll be doing Dave the Diver and Dredge, doing a half and half.
Yeah.
And then Monday, have MO Mondays, Lotro.
Yes.
Tuesday, Inuit. Could be pretty good.
I did Inuit.
I thought we did, yeah, but I was thinking maybe we missed a part of it there, but I thought we did Inuit. That's why I was sitting here going...
Yeah. Yeah, Inuit, Sebna, and a few that was cool. Mm-hmm. That was, I really enjoyed that one. I've actually stole a couple things from that, so...
Tuesday, we'll have our regular podcast, and there's already some fun news that's coming up for there. I can't tell you yet if there will or not be reviews. You're going to have to watch and see. I know that question's coming. But then next Wednesday, we're giving Rundgren the night off.
Yeah, I need a day off.
He's done 13 Relicta streams in a row. He needs the night off.
That's not why, but I won't be here. Won't be here Wednesday. Yes.
And then next Thursday we'll do SCP-001 Ouroborous finale, hopefully.
Yeah, got to finish up the last of their stories. Mm-hmm. And then you said that as far as proposals for Series 1, after we finish this, there's 15 more?
Yeah, 15 more.
Okay.
But those aren't as long as this one. This one is the longest SCP entry by far.
By far? Okay.
This is a huge entry. It is crazy how long this one is. This one is basically a novel.
Right. Right.
The SCP Exploring series did a video on it, and it was 4 hours and like 15 minutes long. And he didn't add any of his own thoughts. He just read the story. So, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's long. Yeah. The rest of them, not quite so much. They're still longer than the regular entries, but they're not.
When you've gone over it just from, like, the stuff that you've quoted, quoted from, like, journal entries and things like that, or sections where you're like, I've kept this one the same and kind of read through it. Because it's crowdsourced world mythology. Yeah. Going through that, there's some really good writers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people with great imagination. Yeah. It doesn't need Tolkien or David Charles Dickens level of writing, right. To get it across. But there have been some really good writers, and there's been some that's just like, hey, just gives a little thing for it. So
I think it really gets to shine too because of how small the stories are in scope. You don't have to try and tell a whole world. It's just, this is the story.
Yeah, you create the character.
Yeah.
That's...
We'll see, Dart. We'll see. I did have a plan for next Friday, but we'll see. I'd still owe everybody a Vampire Survivor stream at some point, so. Because of that Armored Core stream. But, until next time. Oh, I was going to say real quick before we end. I'm sorry. Don't forget, Discord is open. It's free to anybody. You can check it out with !Discord. And then how many different people? So this is 2. It is 2 writers. DJ Cactus and Twisted Graham. Those are the 2 writers for the Ouroborous Cycle. So, but the thing I want to say real quick is this is a TTRPG podcast. take from SCP, please. There's so many good ideas in there, even just for like mundane magical items or cursed items. But when you look at like the world and stuff you can take from there, the Broken God would be a really cool campaign to run in.
Yeah.
There's this cult that is slowly building their machine god back, you know?
I don't feel comfortable answering the question the way you put it, Dark.
I mean, that's not a mundane item, but I'm talking like the shaving mirror, where no matter what angle you place it at, you can always see your neck.
Yeah.
To be able to shave. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. So,
okay.
Anyway, until next time.
All right.
I've been Trey.
I've been Rungwin.
This has been the Full Spectrum TTRPG podcast. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that SCPs have to offer.
Good night, all.